Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Radhanat Radha Radhanat Radhe. Jai Radha Radhanat Radha Radhanat Radhe. Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Gaura Hari, Gaura Hari, Gaura Hari, Jaya Gaura Hari. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Giri Govardhan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you all for being present here while I give my class on Srimad Bhagavatam 426.9. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so this is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 26. King Puranjana goes to the forest to hunt, and his queen becomes angry. Okay, so verse 9. Tatra nirbhina gatranam Chitra Vrajaye Shilimukaye Viplavo Buddhukitanam Dhushaha Karunatmanam Tatra Nirbhina Gatranam Chitra Vajaye Silimukaye Viplavo Buddhukitanam Dushaha Karunatmanam Tatra Nirbhina Gatranam Chitra Vajaye Silimukaye Viplavo Buddhukitanam Dushaha Karunatmanam. Prabhu. Tatra Nirbhina Gatranam Chitra Vajaye Silimukaye Viplavo Buddhukitanam Dushaha Karunatmanam Tatra Nirbhina Gatranam Chitra Vajaye Silimukaye Viplavo Buddhukitanam Dushaha Karunatmanam Tatra Nirbhina Gatranam Chitra Vajaye Silimukaye Viplavo Buddhukitanam Dushaha Karunatmanam. No? Okay. Word for word. Tatra, there. Nirbhina, being pierced. Gatranam, whose bodies. Chitra Vajai, with variegated feathers. Shilimukai, by the arrows. Viplavaha, destruction. Abhut, was done. Dhukitanam, of the most aggrieved. Dhushaha, unbearable. Karuna Atmanam, for persons who are very merciful. Translation. When King Puranjana was hunting in this way, many animals within the forest lost their lives with great pain, being pierced by the sharp arrowheads. Upon seeing these devastating ghastly activities performed by the king, all the people who were merciful by nature became very unhappy. Such merciful persons could not tolerate seeing all this killing. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When demoniac persons engage in animal killing, the demigods or devotees of the Lord are very much afflicted by this killing. Demoniac civilizations in this modern age maintain various types of slaughterhouses all over the world. Rascal swamis and yogis encourage foolish persons to go on eating flesh and killing animals, and at the same time continue their so-called meditation and mystical practices. All these affairs are ghastly, and a compassionate person, namely a devotee of the Lord, becomes very unhappy to see such a sight. The hunting process is also carried on in a different way, as we have already explained. Hunting women, drinking different types of liquor, becoming intoxicated, killing animals, and enjoying sex all serve as the basis of modern civilization. Vaishnavas are unhappy to see such a situation in the world, and therefore they are very busy spreading this Krishna consciousness movement. The devotees are pained to see the hunting and the killing of animals in the forest, the wholesale slaughter of animals in the slaughterhouses, and the exploitation of young girls in brothels that function under different names as clubs and societies. Being very much compassionate upon the killing of animals in sacrifice, the great sage Narada began his instructions to King Prachinabharishad. In these instructions, Narad Muni explained that devotees like him are very much afflicted by all the killing that goes on in human society. Not only are saintly persons afflicted by this killing, but even God himself is afflicted, and therefore comes down in the incarnation of Lord Buddha. Jayadev Goswami therefore sings, Sadaya Hridaya Darshita Pashughatam. Simply stop the killing of animals. Lord Buddha compassionately appeared. Simply to stop the killing of animals, Lord Buddha compassionately appeared. Some rascals put forward the theory that an animal has no soul or is something like dead stone. In this way, they rationalize that there is no sin in animal killing. Actually, animals are not dead stone, but the killers of animals are stone-hearted. Consequently, no reason or philosophy appeals to them. They continue keeping slaughterhouses and killing animals in the forest. The conclusion is that one who does not care for the instructions of saintly persons, like Narada and his disciplic succession, surely falls into the category of nashta pragya and thus goes to hell. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Shvapadantikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, I'll read the verse again. Tatra nirbhina gatranam chitra vajai silimukhaye viplavo buddhukitanam dukshaha karunatmanam. When King Puranjana was hunting in this way, many animals within the forest lost their lives with great pain, being pierced by the sharp arrowheads. Upon seeing these devastating, ghastly activities performed by the king, all the people who were merciful by nature became very unhappy. Such merciful persons could not tolerate seeing all this killing. Okay, Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you, dear devotees, for attending again. I offer my obeisances to my spiritual master, Bhakti Chaitanya Swami Maharaj, and I know he's listening, so I'm very nervous about that. And I offer my obeisances to Swarup Damodar Prabhu and all the Vaishnavas that are sitting here. Thank you. So this is a very fairly short purport, just 2 paragraphs, and but there's so much that we can draw from it, right? Like a king hunting in the forest, hunting by others, animals in great pain, meat eating, big one, demoniac activities, right? merciful people unable to tolerate seeing all this killing. So these are the main points that comes out in this purport. So when I read this verse for the first time, my thoughts were about someone I know, someone related to me and who goes out hunting. Okay, so generally he's a very nice person, and he's soft-spoken, calm, and respectful. So one has to wonder, like, what impels somebody to do something like this, to take up killing of innocent animals like this as a sport, and thereafter train your young daughters to use a rifle? And that's what this person does. So are they going to kill again? Are they going to go into the forest as well? And how does one derive pleasure from such a cruel act? What impels one to do like this? So we can see how difficult it is to judge somebody just by the pleasantries we exchange. Superficially, they may appear to be very kind-hearted and gentle, but beneath that facade could lie hidden Rakshas propensities, demonic propensities. So once in my Bhagavad Gita class, a student had asked me, so what about a nice person? You know, I mean, don't they go to back to Godhead because they're quite nice? So I said, okay, describe nice. And she said, well, they're kind-natured. They're never hurtful to others, never resentful, just simply going about their daily jobs, maintaining their families, well, just happy people, okay? So I asked, okay, do they eat meat? And she said, yes. So I asked, how can they be nice then? If they can't be compassionate to other living entities, that alone disqualifies them from entering into the kingdom of God, right? So Srila Prabhupada speaks very strongly about this in his conversations to Father Emmanuel, mentioned in the Science of Self-Realization. And in this dialogue between Srila Prabhupada and Father Emmanuel, Srila Prabhupada explains to Father Emmanuel that genuine love of God must be demonstrated through obedience to God's commandments, not merely through belief or worship. He argues that many Christians claim to love God, but fail to follow his instruction, thou shalt not kill, because they support or tolerate animal slaughter and maintain slaughterhouses. So when Father Emmanuel admits that Christians do violate this commandment, Prabhupada concludes that true God consciousness requires giving up animal killing. So actually it's not just the Christians, but people from all kinds of religious groups that maintain slaughterhouses, and we see that, right? So using this mathematical analogy, Srila Prabhupada says that if you miss 1 point in a calculation, there is a mistake. Okay, if you miss 1 point, regardless of what you add or subtract to thereafter, the mistake is already in the calculation, and everything that follows thereafter will be faulty. So in the same way, disobedience to even one important divine command undermines claims of genuine love for God. Okay. So some people do feeding schemes, they engage in all kinds of charitable work, and feeding schemes, you know, usually they would include meat in their foods, because generally the people that are out there, impoverished people who are begging for food, don't even want vegetarian food. So a lot of people are actually preparing foods like this. So they're also, they're trying to be charitable, altruistic, you know, accumulating some piety on one hand, and on the other hand, they're accumulating sinful reactions. So Srila Prabhupada is saying, this is what he's saying, you can add or subtract, but if you miss 1 point, the result will be faulty. Okay, so you can be nice, but if you're eating meat, then you're implicated in the killing of animals, and what to speak of other sinful habits. So in Canto 4, Srimad Bhagavatam, it is described how killing of an animal for food, in killing of an animal for food, 6 people are implicated. The one who orders killing, right, who gives the permission, one who kills, one who hunts, who helps that person who kills, one who buys, one who cooks, and one who eats. Okay? So all of these people are implicated and all take the karmic reaction for that. So this is in the mode of ignorance, right? If you are implicated in a killing of animals, then you're known to be in the mode of ignorance, the mode of darkness. So you can't love God or any other living being in his creation too if you are killing, right? So on the surface, this verse is talking about animal killing or hunting and meat eating. But when you dive deeper into the subject matter, you can understand that it goes far beyond just that. This is the surface. This is the result of something else. Okay, so it's about engaging in unrestricted sense activities. Now, how when one is influenced by rajas and tamas, right, the modes of passion and ignorance, demoniac propensities come to be. So this violent act of killing is the result of something else, we can see. And in Bhagavad Gita 3:36, Arjuna says, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? And the Supreme Personality of Godhead in text 37 says, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion, and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. So we can see lust is the basis of this. And the purport for that is when a living entity comes in contact with the material creation, his eternal love for Krishna is transformed into lust in association with the mode of passion. And we know this is Purushottama month, the analogy of the banyan tree, right? The upside down tree, and how it's a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So that love that we have, that innate love for Krishna, we all have. It's there within us, but it's just dormant. It's just when we come into the material world, it's flipped upside down, basically, and it becomes lust. Okay, so this lust is in association with the mode of passion. And then again, when lust is unsatisfied, it turns into wrath. Therefore, lust is the greatest enemy of the living entity, and it is lust which induces a pure living entity to remain entangled in the material world. Wrath is the manifestation of the mode of ignorance. So this is in the purport of text 37. And then this is also explained in chapter 2, in text 62. While contemplating the object of senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises. So we see that when someone has intense desire for something, it becomes lust. And when that is not satiated, then it becomes anger. Okay, and then bewilderment of memory takes place, and then intelligence is lost, right? So one falls down like this into this material pool. So here King Prachinabharishat was overly indulgent in material sense enjoyment. Therefore, he was not ready to take to spiritual life. He became overly attached to performing ritualistic activities, which are actually mentioned and recommended in the Vedas. Therefore, he had no desire to take to spiritual life. Now, one may confuse these religious activities to be spiritual practices. Okay, so in the allegory as Puranjana, he was pleased with himself. He thought he was that by following the ritualistic processes, mentioned in the Vedic scriptures, he could be happy in this material world. But we saw in the purport of the previous verse 8, was spoken on Friday, I think, by Maharaj Ram Govindaswamy Maharaj. Krishna was saying to Arjuna in 245, the Vedas mainly deal with the subject of the three modes of material nature. Rise above these modes, O Arjuna, be transcendental to all of them. So Puranjana, he could not find Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Giri Govardhan ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Puranjana could not find happiness within the city of 9 gates. Remember, this is this material body, city of 9 gates. It has 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, a mouth, genital, and rectum. There's 9 gates, right? And therefore, he had gone out of the city into the forest, right, where he had met his beautiful wife. So this is, remember, Puranjana is this allegorical story, and he's relating this to King Prachinabharishat, who couldn't understand matters, spiritual matters. So Narad Muni had to make up the story and explain things to him. So everyone's looking for happiness outside, right, in the forest. So outside of this city, outside of the city is a big forest, and everyone's looking outside for happiness, when true happiness actually lies within. Now, I see so many people lots of people, especially they come towards middle age and over, and they can't find a partner because they want to get married, and they become so distressed about it, and as they feel that they just can't be happy, and I say, why can't you be happy? Because you're looking for your happiness in someone else. Just trust in yourself. The Lord is within you, and trust in yourself. But it's difficult, we've come through that process of family life, so maybe it's easier for us to speak now. But at that time, so we try to explain to people who are young and really desperate to get married and struggling to find a suitable partner. So happiness is within your heart. Why? Because the Lord is within your heart. He's Paramatma. He's seated in your heart. And He's waiting for you to turn towards Him for happiness and shelter. So we know the analogy of the two birds where the two birds are sitting on the tree. You got Paramatma and you got Jiva Atma, who's busy enjoying the fruits of the tree. And Paramatma is just waiting for Jiva Atma to turn up and look at him and depend on him. But Jivatma is busy doing his own thing, right? So that's basically what King Prachina Bharishat is doing here. So now Puranjana, seeking further sense pleasures, he leaves his dutiful wife at home and he goes back out into the forest to hunt. So here this hunting is speaking about Puranjana as the king killing animals, but we also hear of other husbands, other Puranjanas, right, who are also looking for sense pleasures, hunting for other women in the so-called forest. They leave their wives home and they're hunting for more sense gratification. And it is mentioned in the purport, hunting women, drinking different types of liquor, becoming intoxicated, killing animals, and enjoying sex all serve as a basis of modern civilization. So in the allegory, King Puranjana goes to the forest to hunt and kill many animals for his own enjoyment. He also performs numerous ritualistic activities, ritualistic sacrifices, right, involving the slaughter of animals. Now Puranjana, he's driven by ignorance and passion, and he tries to dominate material nature and exploit other living beings for pleasure. So previously we read that Narad Muni had warned the king that the animals he killed are waiting for him in the next life, according to the laws of karma. Those very animals will take revenge by piercing the king with their own horns. Okay? So yes, animal killing is recommended in the Vedas, but excessive and unrestricted killing of animals is not recommended. And in Bhagavad Gita 3:12, Lord Krishna says to Arjuna that the natural resources we are receiving are being supplied by the demigods, right? So all of these things that we have to utilize for food and things are supplied by the demigods. Right? So they are the authorized supplying agents on behalf of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they must be satisfied by the performance of yagyas, prescribed yagyas, which are ultimately offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So performance of these yagyas are necessary for one who cannot understand the personality of Godhead, and for him sacrifice is recommended, demigods worship is recommended. So in essence it is saying that if one cannot come to Krishna consciousness, then sacrifice to the demigods must be done, right? That's mentioned. So when we take birth, we take on different qualities of the modes of material nature. And according to the different material qualities of a person, different types of yagyas are prescribed and recommended in the Vedas. Worship of different demigods are also on the same basis, according to the qualities you have acquired from these modes. So ultimately, however, all these yagyas are meant for the gradual promotion to the transcendental platform, right, for self-realization. And according to the four orders of the material world, the four varnas, the Brahmana, the priestly class, is topmost and is in the mode of goodness. Next is a Kshatriya in the mode of passion. And the Vaishya, mercantile class, is in the mixed modes of passion and ignorance. And the Shudra is the laborer class in the mode of ignorance. So what is a king like Puranjana or Prachina Bharisha doing by engaging in such sinful activities, such as the unnecessary killing of animals? A king is supposed to be a Goswami, A Goswami is a master of the senses, the mind and senses, right? So we can see how when passion is unrestricted, one falls down into the lower category, into the mode of ignorance. And in Vedic times, most kings, like even the Pandavas, they were Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, right? So they were in the mode of goodness and passion. But now we have kings in the current day that instead of being situated in the mode of goodness, they're in fact in the level of Shudras, in the mode of ignorance. Okay. So these kings and leaders of the current modern age are demoniac, for they authorize and maintain various types of slaughterhouses all over the world. Killing of animals, even for food, is violence and demoniac. In fact, it is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam that is the duty of the king or the leader of a country to protect its citizens. And that's a natural given, right? That the king or the leader is there to protect their citizens. And Srila Prabhupada brings about this point in Srimad Bhagavatam that even the animals are a citizen of the state, right? So they must be protected. Yet they're mercilessly killing them to satisfy their tongues and bellies. So we can see how lust and greed can lead to the killing of innocent lives. Okay? Now the Vedic scriptures are meant to bring one to the point of liberation, to self-realization. Right? They prescribe religious pious activities as dharma, karma, kama, atta, and moksha. So in a regulated way. So sense desire, economic development, liberation, all for the ultimate self-realization, and to show us how to live in this world in order to get out of it. So that's what it is. It's showing us how to live in this world. That's what the Vedas are doing, in order to get out of it, right? But it has been misinterpreted and misused by unqualified swamis and priests. Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, rascal swamis and yogis encourage foolish persons to go on eating flesh and killing animals, and at the same time continue their so-called meditation and mystical practices. So like this, the general public have become misled. I know of a priest who smokes cigarettes during his pujas. He takes a break and he laughs and he takes a smoke break. And then he carries on after that with the next part. Okay, I know of priests who go to casinos. I've heard previously they would take a little deity of Lord Buddha, rub his tummy, okay, and maybe say some mantra because they want to win some money in the casinos. And I've also heard of priests who are not vegetarians. So this is happening right around us. Okay, so these are rascal swamis who cheat the public by performing prayer ceremonies. It is a case of the blind leading the blind. And if you want to get fooled and you know that this swami, this priest is doing like this, and you're still engaging for your ceremonies, then you're going to get fooled. The Lord is going to send someone to fool you. Okay? And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains the yoga ladder process to Arjuna, which is ultimately meant to bring us to transcendence. But in Kali Yuga, this is very different, a very difficult process and risky part to take. So he mentions that, right? Those who eat animal meat justify it as being accepted in the Vedas. Yet, as mentioned earlier, if one wants to eat meat, then they must worship Mother Kali and offer that animal in sacrifice to her first. But are the general population doing that? Are they following this regulation? No. Okay? So it's sin that they are eating. Nevertheless, even those who perform animal sacrifices are not even qualified to do so. I heard also that some men, I've grown older now, so I heard all of these things gradually over the time, right? So I heard that some men who slaughter these animals in these ritualistic sacrifices are sometimes intoxicated with alcohol. So how can we, think that Mother Kali is going to accept this offering, right? So in this age of Kali Yuga, no one is qualified to perform such demigod worship because everyone is subjected to the four defects. That is, we are illusioned, we have imperfect senses, we have cheating propensity and the tendency to make mistakes. So these demigod worship is not recommended, right? So for this reason, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared as Lord Buddha in order to cheat the cheaters, right? The grossly ignorant fools. So like this, he rejected the authority of the Vedas because people are misusing the Vedas and thinking they can just kill animals as and when they please. And so Lord Buddha appeared in order to reject this and introduce ahimsa, non-violence to animals, right? He did not completely reject the Vedas, but he rejected the authority of that, right? So he didn't deny the Vedas as such. He just rejected the authority of it. And so in that way, he's depicted as an atheist. Now, later Shankaracharya had come and defended the Vedas, and he criticized Buddhist philosophy. So either way, we don't follow the Mayavadi philosophy of Buddhism or the impersonal theory of Shankaracharya. But the common fact here is compassion for all living entities, right? So Narad Muni in this way wanted to indicate to King Prachina Bharishat that the path of karma kanda is very difficult and risky. In Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 1, verse 2, he says, Dharma projita ketavatra paramo niratsar nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam. He says, completely rejecting all religious activities, dharma, which are materially motivated, right? Ketava. This Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by these devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion and for the welfare of all. So these regulations are meant to uphold the laws of nature, just like the laws of the country are meant to uphold the law and order. But if violated, then the criminal will be punished. So likewise, if the laws of nature are violated, then punishment will occur through the laws of karma. So even if you disagree with it and you don't accept it, these laws still exist, right? And you will still be subjected to such punishment. Okay. So you can disagree and say, I don't accept these laws of karma, but it still exists, right? So, and the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, just a second line, Vedas cha sarver aham eva vedyo vedanta krid veda ved eva chaham. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of Vedas, right? So the Vedas give us direction by which to understand Krishna and the process of realizing him. And to go back home, back to Godhead, the Vedas offer knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The purpose of the Vedas is to understand Krishna. So we know that if you followed right at the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, and Vyasadeva had divided the Vedas and came up with the 4 Vedas, Rigya, Jur, Sama, Atharva, Veda, he was still feeling dissatisfied. Something was missing, something was amiss. And then Narad Muni appeared, and Narad Muni explained to him, you haven't sufficiently glorified the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You haven't sufficient, and that was missing. So the ultimate goal of the Vedas is to understand Krishna, right? And in fact, when I first came into Krishna consciousness, the 2 books that I read were The Science of Self-Realization. The first 2 books I read, Science of Self-Realization, as well as the Higher Taste Recipe book. Now, these 2 books were life-changing for me. The philosophy in Science of Self-Realization is so profound that it has ability to change one's consciousness overnight. And we are teaching this in the Bhaktivedanta College, but I see that a lot of people, they skip the Bhakti Sadachar course and go straight to Bhagavad Gita. So they're missing some very basic, essential points. In the Higher Taste, right, the half of the book is dedicated to animal killing and meat eating. And this raw truth is revealed in this book. It's a real eye-opener, and if you haven't read that yet, then you should. Health issues and diseases that arise from the consumption of meat are addressed. How our bodies become a graveyard for the carcasses of dead animals. It also discusses the economic impact and the environmental impact as well, damage. So in regular meat-eating household, in a regular meat-eating household, average monthly purchase, sorry, I'm going to talk about this a little bit, is maybe half a sheep, right? So that means in 1 year, that family would have allowed for 6 sheep to be killed for their satisfaction. In the festive season, even more meat is consumed. So this is excluding chicken and fish, okay? And once, many years ago, the first Sunday newspaper in January had come out in the new year, and the headlines read, "Whopping sales for the butchers." And I thought how sad that was. And they thought it was something to, to make a headline out of. But it was really sad that if it's whopping sales for the butchers, how many animals have been butchered? Okay? So when we understand what the results of our actions will be, we will think twice before acting, right? So that's why our temple here is called the Sri Sri Radharadhana Temple of Understanding. We must understand Vedic literature and its philosophy, not just accept Krishna consciousness through mere sentiment. Merciless killing and torture of animals is evidence of psychological or psychiatric disorders, most likely the resultant action of cruel past life experiences, as well as the effects of indulging in animal consumption. It is said that one takes on the qualities of the food that one eats. So the lack of compassion begins like this. And in the extreme senses, this kind of mindset can later on progress to killing of human beings. So when we see that how world wars are carrying on, we have to understand where this is coming from. Maybe past life experiences, maybe childhood trauma, and it's all accumulated over the years, right? These past life experiences. So sometimes we have, during the festival of Diwali, you hear of people attaching fireworks to animals, right? So this is cruelty to animals. So actually, if you understand that the psychology of the person, you can understand it can lead to much greater harm later on. So if somebody can understand that and they can nip it in the bud, help this person at that point in their lives, then it does not escalate to something like world wars, okay, where killing of people mean nothing to you. So in certain psychology does recognize a link between intentional cruelty to animals and later interpersonal violence, right? So we see that. So animal abuse is sometimes considered a warning sign in forensic psychology. And in certain parts of the world, mainly in rural areas, there have been reports of cannibalism, survival cannibalism, ritualistic cannibalism, and pathological cannibalism, right? So this is outright barbaric and in the grossest form of ignorance. And so historically, these people may have been called outcasts or untouchables or malechas, right? In Bhagavad Gita 5:18, the Lord says, humble sages by virtue of true knowledge see with equal vision a learned and a gentle brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, the outcasts. So because the Supreme Personality of Godhead in His Paramatma feature is residing in each and every one of us, Shastra is teaching us to have equal vision and not discriminate. So the doors of our temple are open to everyone. Even if you are a meat eater, you can come into the temple. So we should have compassion for these fallen souls. Of course, on first hand, one gets angry at seeing this. You get angry at seeing such violence. But then when you try to understand where this is coming from, then you have compassion for this person or for these people. And they need help. So they need help, right? And our devotees are going out in the streets doing Harinam, Sankirtan, and all our activities in devotional service are there to help them. And in the purport, it is said that one who does not care for the instructions of saintly persons like Narada and his disciplic succession surely falls into the category of Nashta Pragya, thus goes to hell. So I'm going to just read a few things. I know we are running out of time here. Just how Lord Kapila is instructing his mother Devahuti in Canto 3, right, on the description of adverse fruitive activities. He describes the hellish conditions one has to undergo after engaging in such sinful activities. Now this is really scary when hearing of this, no sane person would want to commit any crimes. And I'll just read a few. He says, how a person engaged in criminal sense gratification is arrested by the Yamadutas, who bind him by the neck with strong rope and cover his subtle body so that he may undergo severe punishment. He is bitten by dogs. Under the scorching sun, he has to pass through roads of hot sand with forest fires on both sides. He is whipped on the back. He is afflicted by hunger and thirst, but there is no drinking water, no shelter, and no place for rest on the road. He is placed in the midst of burning pieces of wood, and his limbs are set on fire. In some cases, he is made to eat his own flesh or have it eaten by others. His internal organs are pulled out by the hounds and vultures of hell, even though he is still alive to see it. Right? So this is so much of torment. And he says, men and women whose lives who are indulged in illicit sex are put into many kinds of miserable conditions in the hells known as Tamishra, Anda Tamishra, and Rorava, right? So I won't go into more of it, but this is scary and horrific, and it should not be sugar-coated. We should not hide this. People need to be aware of what the consequences of their actions are. Then we all need to be well informed in order to make proper decisions concerning the most important aspect of our lives, right, which is our spiritual growth. So one time I was speaking to Anandamaya Prabhu and telling him how scary karma is. Like, it's better if I didn't know what I knew about it, right? And he said, Prabhu said, ignorance is like a drunk man rolling in his own vomit, thinking, I am the king of the world, right? So we can't remain in ignorance. It's important for us to study scripture and understand what these consequences are. So to see the suffering of these poor animals, it's very disturbing. And I'm just going to go into how Lord Kapila instructs his mother on devotional service, because devotional service is so important. The Vaishnavas are full of compassion for the fallen souls. We have so many examples. Like Srila Prabhupada, he's so compassionate. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, most compassionate, most munificent. Our very own spiritual masters who's renounced their homes as young boys to preach to the entire world, to help Srila Prabhupada in his mission, just to save us, right? And Arjuna was so compassionate as well. Prahlad Maharaj, the deliverance of Ajamil in that story, Lord Nityananda. So we can see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so compassionate that even when he passed through the forest of Jarikanda, this was just 500 years ago, even the animals began to dance and sing. And this was possible when he was here. Our Food for Life teams are distributing prasadam in very dangerous areas. So how compassionate are they, right? I remember when the Russia-Ukraine war started, one Prabhu, he didn't care for his life, but he stood on the street serving prasadam to the homeless people whose homes were lost in the bomb blast. And this poor Prabhu was also killed in the bomb blast. So devotees are willing to risk their lives like this, right? And this is Lord Kapila is explaining the process of devotional service to his mother. I'm just skipping a whole lot because I know we have less time. And he says, pure devotional service means engaging the mind, the senses, and actions in loving service to God without selfish motives. True bhakti is performed, so true bhakti actually softens the heart. This hardened heart of ours that's coming from meat eating and animal killing and people killing, right? Bhakti is the one that will soften your heart without any desire for material gain, right? And he explains this devotion that purifies the heart and awakens spiritual knowledge and detachment. So we must associate with the devotees, hear about the Lord, chant his names, his fame, his glories, right? Worship him with sincerity and take prasad. Prasad is the best thing, right? It's pleasing to the heart and soul, and it purifies one's existence. So this Krishna consciousness is penance, it's tapasya, it's austerity. It's not just therefore, to gain some material benefit from. It's for us to get spiritual benefit, to go back home, back to Godhead. So if people think it's difficult, yes, at the beginning it is difficult. It's very difficult. But persevere, and eventually you will, you'll reach that goal, that ultimate goal. So he describes meditative devotion, focusing on the beautiful form of the Lord, beginning from the lotus feet of the Lord upwards. That's how we take darshan of the Lord, from the lotus feet going upwards, right? And fixing the mind steadily in loving remembrance. So this meditation leads to deep absorption and spiritual realization. So like this, we can meditate on the deities on our altar and become absorbed in their beauty. And Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna consciousness is the only process by which one can advance from the lowest order of being a Shudra to that of a Brahmana. You can come up from ignorance to goodness, just like that. You don't have to go through the yoga ladder process, right? And therefore, after continual devotional service, one can attain pure goodness and from Brahmana come to the level of a Vaishnava. Okay? So I'll end here. We have a couple minutes. Thank you, dear devotees. Any questions or comments? Or you want to add something, Prabhu? Swarup Prabhu? Add? Anyone? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
for the class. I was just thinking that, about meat eating.
I can't hear you very much.
Oh, I
Just
see.
a
All
little
right.
louder, just a
Okay,
little
so I
louder.
was just thinking about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. He actually invited some guests to the center in Mayapur. And interestingly, it's historical record. He did serve meat at the function. And according to what I read, or how I understood it, Prabhupada contemplated it. In the early days, he did contemplate it. He told Upendra Prabhu when he was going to prison, you can eat what they give you. He told Hari Krish Maharaj, eat meat and preach. He told the devotees who were preaching in the Middle East at that time, because they were visiting royal families and things like that. And if their identity as devotees were revealed, then they would have been in trouble. So he said, just eat what they give you. So I think sometimes maybe for a ring-fenced environment, it's important that we keep our things. But if you were to look outside, then it's not a big thing, because otherwise how are you going to attract people to come to the movement?
Because they won't come in
They
anyway.
won't come in, yeah.
So you have to give them what it is they like to attract them. At least they get to hear. So from there they can move up. But Prabhu, Swarup Prabhu, maybe you want to speak on that?
That situation with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is sometimes mispresented. And one historical understanding that I got from that is that he invited, I think it was the governor, to come, and he had arranged for those non-vegetarian things to be cooked. It was not in Mayapur Dham, it was where they were staying, outside of Mayapur. So yeah, it's not like he cooked it, had his devotees cook and serve them in Mayapur Dham. It was where they were staying, outside of Mayapur. And even for Srila Prabhupada, the part about Harikesh Swami, who was resisting going to Eastern Europe to preach, Srila Prabhupada made the statement that even if you have to eat meat, you should preach. It wasn't like giving a permission to eat meat, it was showing how important the preaching mission is. It wasn't, so it has to be seen from the context of what was being discussed at that time. Definitely no Gaudiya Vaishnavacharya has condoned the eating of non-vegetarian food. And even in the realm of attracting people to Krishna consciousness, it definitely seems, at least to me, antithetical to our whole process. You can't use cruelty to attract people to compassion. It just doesn't make sense. So I think the histories that you are speaking about, sometimes they are, I do feel sometimes misrepresented, and we need to be more careful to see the accuracy or the inaccuracy in those accounts. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Anyone else? No? Okay, we'll end here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Granted Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you.